All right, let's dive right into one of the strangest, most personal, and frankly, most explosive autobiographies ever written. Friedrich Nietzsche's final book, Ecce Homo. I mean, you just have to look at the table of contents to know you're in for a wild ride. The chapter titles are Why I Am So Wise, Why I Am So Clever, Why I Write Such Excellent Books. This isn't your typical humble memoir. No way. This is a gauntlet thrown down, a direct challenge, right from page one. And that immediately forces you to ask the big question, right? Are we reading the ravings of a mind that's about to completely unravel? Or is this the final, urgent testament of a philosopher desperate to make sure his legacy is understood? That's what we're going to get into. So, to get to the bottom of that, madman or misunderstood genius, we have to start by figuring out what exactly Nietzsche was trying to do with this incredibly provocative book. See, Ecce Homo is not your standard autobiography. It's not about, I was born here, I went to school there. Instead, Nietzsche uses his own life as a framework to explain his entire philosophy. It's his own interpretation of his life's purpose, a final attempt to tell the world who he was, in his own words. But here's where it gets really intense. To truly understand the book's wild, almost frantic tone, you have to look at the tragic context of how it was written. This wasn't just another project for him. This was an urgent mission. Okay, look at this timeline. This is absolutely wild. Nietzsche writes this entire world-shaking book in just 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and then, only 2 months later, he has a total mental breakdown in Turin, and he never recovers. This wasn't just writing. This was a desperate race against the darkness he felt closing in. So what does that tell us? It tells us he knew. He could feel the end coming. He was terrified that his life's work, his entire philosophy, was going to be twisted and co-opted after he was gone. Ecce Homo was his last stand, a preemptive strike to build a fortress around his legacy. So what was this mission he was so desperate to protect? Well, it was nothing less than a complete detonation of 2,000 years of Western values. At the absolute heart of his project was this idea, the transvaluation of all values. He argued that Western culture was dominated by a morality that was hostile to life itself. He claimed virtues like pity and humility actually weakened humanity. He didn't see them as guides, he saw them as poison. And this quote just nails it. Nietzsche famously wanted to philosophize with a hammer. The idols he's talking about are the most deeply held ideals of our civilization: God, truth, goodness. His business, as he saw it, was to take a hammer and watch them crumble. This slide really breaks it all down. On one side, you have the idol of traditional morality. It's all about some fictional, true world beyond this one, and it praises what he called life-denying values. But on the other side, that's his hammer, a philosophy of yay-saying, a powerful, roaring yes to this world, celebrating strength, pride, and life as it is. But here's the thing, Nietzsche wasn't just about destruction. Smashing the old idols was only the first step. The whole point was to clear the ground to build something new, something better, a real philosophy for living. And maybe the most beautiful expression of this is his concept of amor fati, the love of one's fate. This, for him, is the formula for greatness. It means accepting everything that has ever happened to you, the good and the terrible, and not just putting up with it, but loving it. It's the ultimate yes to existence. Ultimately, Nietzsche boils his entire project down to this one epic confrontation: Dionysus versus Christ. Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, chaos, and ecstatic life affirmation, versus Christ, the symbol of pity, suffering, and the promise of another world. For Nietzsche, this wasn't just a debate. It was the final battle for the soul of humanity. This brings us to the aftermath. What was the impact of Nietzsche's dynamite? What kind of legacy did this explosive final work actually leave behind? This is how Nietzsche saw himself, not as a teacher, not as a writer, but as a historical event, an explosion set to shatter the foundations of millennia. And when you look back, it's pretty hard to argue that he was wrong. His ideas really were dynamite. They blew open entirely new fields of thought. Existentialism, psychoanalysis, postmodernism. So much of 20th century art, literature, and philosophy is simply unthinkable without him. He fundamentally changed the kinds of questions we were even allowed to ask. And so, Ecce Homo leaves us with this final, terrifying, and unbelievably liberating question. After the dynamite clears the rubble, after all the idols are smashed, what comes next? Nietzsche doesn't give us an easy answer. He just leaves the hammer in our hands and challenges us to become the creators.
As always, thank you for joining us for this exploration. Just a reminder that this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only.